Welcome. I am your host, Trinette Collier Green, and this is Woman on Fire TV, where we sit back and have girl chat about life, building healthy relationships between self, community, friends, family, and most importantly, God. And today I have an awesome woman I just met this year, a phenomenal woman, Elissa. I'm sorry. Y'all know I mess up words and whatnot, but I am so super sorry. But I am excited to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Good. So let's jump right in because you have a testimony that I don't think people are expecting to hear about.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into it.
Well, I mean, I can just tell you right now that last year I would have never thought that my life looks the way that it is right now, because last year I felt very in control of my life.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And so in control of my life that I needed a reminder from God on who really needs to be in control of my life. And so he did a number on me in order to get my attention in a pretty significant way.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's most of our stories. Like we want to be in control of life.
Right.
We have everything mapped out, planned.
Right.
But we all know how God works.
That's right.
So what happened?
Well, I mean, I can say the summer of last year, I was in a completely different place. I was established in my corporate career for 20 years and was traveling across the country to launch a really successful Wi-Fi product for the third largest cable operator. And it was a huge accomplishment. And I had been playing that role as a single mother for about 11 years.
Really?
And so I had to become a warrior in order to hold it all together. But what was happening is, the way that I look back on it is I was playing Jenga with life. So, so I mean, I grew up in the church. I grew up with a relationship with God, went to Christian college and things like that. Well, one of the things I experienced earlier in my life, and I don't know if some people are familiar with this term, some people are not, is a term called spiritual abuse. And that's when a person in authority makes you wrong in the eyes of God. Right. So I'd experienced that to such a degree that I had to abandon my faith in order to survive. Yes.
Really? Yeah. Spiritual abuse. I believe a lot of us have gone through that or still going through that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, it's just I got to a place where I couldn't pray. I could not pray for about 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, could not pray. I just had to leave that whole part of my life behind.
That's interesting because most people are like, Christian, you're a Christian woman. How could you not pray? How did that come about? What did you do? You just stopped praying or you stopped believing?
I never stopped believing. I just couldn't bring myself to talk to God. Yeah.
Being honest. And we don't like to do that. I remember a point in my life I said that I just didn't want to talk to God. And it wasn't, I knew he was there, but I was so hurt. I just didn't want to pray. I didn't want to do anything that had to do anything with God. And people literally shunned me. They were like, how could you do that? But that was my truth. So did you tell anybody about that, or you just, that was something you kept?
I mostly shifted communities, So I had to do a little bit of self-discovery, and so I found the yoga community helpful for that, and I did have some self-growth there. But then over the last 4 years, I even abandoned that because I became so involved in the corporate world and being successful and, you know, climbing the ladder and raising my kids and keeping this lifestyle that I had built up for myself and that I thought I needed to have. But then last year, that's when God started the wake-up calls. And when I say wake-up calls, I'm talking every single aspect of my entire life was pretty much either shaken up or brought down to ground zero.
Wow. So you had all of this stuff going for you.
Right.
Everything. But God was at the bottom.
That's right. And so when I say my life was like I was playing Jenga with my life, the way that I look back at it is I used to be the start of the game, you know, have a solid foundation, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, I'm going to take out my prayer life and put it on the top. I'm going to take out sleep, put it up there. I'm going to take out time with family and friends. I'm going to take out going to church, put it on the top, and then you know, after a while, it couldn't be sustained anymore, and everything collapsed and caused collateral damage.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never looked at it like that.
Right.
You were just taking away, chipping away from that foundation that God had given you.
Right.
But everything else was more important.
Right, and that was to hold on to, you know, even silly things like keeping a job and spending 2 hours a day in traffic. Like that 2 hours a day in traffic is one of the top pieces of the Jenga tower.
Wow. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it takes up time.
The time that we're supposed to spend with God.
Right.
In our prayer life.
Right. Yeah.
So what you said, things started crumbling. So take us to that.
Things started crumbling. So like I said, last summer I was the summer of last year, I was traveling the country, had successfully launched a product across the entire country, but then it all started to tumble. The Jenga tower started to tumble when I got a phone call from the summer camp that my daughter had been injured. And I had no idea how severe the injury was until I saw her at the ER. And I won't go into details, but it's nothing that any parent wants to see on their child's body.
Right.
The injury that she endured. And so that was the start of the fall of the tower. It was the catalyst, because now I had another log at the top of the Jenga tower, and that was to care for my injured child. I mean, that's what you do as a mother, but it's still another sacrifice on top of all the other sacrifices. And so I continued to hold on to the corporate warrior persona that I had, while also now taking on mother of an injured child. And so I had to leave work, drive her to physical therapy. You know, at 10 years old, she did not have the coping skills. She was injured to the state where she was unable to walk for a few months.
Oh, wow.
So she had to go through surgery. She had to go through physical therapy. And of course, as her mother, I took all of that on, but
while still being in corporate America, and still trying to live your life, but and at this time you're still not praying, you're still not talking with God or praying, so that life is just gone right now, that part.
There's still holes in the bottom of the Jenga tower. And so this is when the tower starts toppling just a little bit.
But you could handle it. So
I could handle it. I was like, I've got this. I got this, you know. So,
like most of us do. We figure, okay, it's just a little bump in the road. I'm all right. God knows my heart. I'm all right. He knows I love him, this, that, and other. But not really looking at the bigger picture. So then, you know, it's just one event after the other, including my house. There was water damage. So my entire ceiling was ripped out from my living room. My entire master bathroom was gutted. Now I'm doing the corporate gig, doing the traffic, taking care of an injured child, and dancing around destruction in my house. So I had that going on, and it became difficult to hold it all together. So I did have a significant other, and
And because I was making so many sacrifices or within my Jenga tower of life, that relationship came to an end. So then, I mean, it was quite a surprise to me after having had such a successful year run in my career, God decided to eject me from the corporate world.
Oh no.
So I had dealt with my injured child. I had a home that was destroyed in an area inside. I lost my most significant relationship in my life. And then I also lost my job. And the accumulation of all of those things was the start of the toppling of the Jenga tower. When I lost my job, I was so overwhelmed with all of these things that, and I also struggle with autoimmune issues. So what had happened is just all of it became too much. And in February this last year, I was in bed or on the couch for 2 to 3 weeks straight, physically unable to get up and make dinner for my children.
Really?
So now we've got the health category of my life too, that was just completely gone. I had really lost everything except for the roof over my head, and fortunately still have my 2 children. But other than that, every other aspect of my life had pretty much fallen down to ground zero.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So, but God had a plan with all of that. Looking back on that 2 to 3 weeks where I was laying on the couch, really unable to get up, I was in such a mental fog. I don't even remember how I came about doing this, but somehow during some of the days, I found the strength to stand up, and what I ended up doing was writing Post-it notes and posting them all over my dining room table.
Really?
I mean, my dining room, because I was at this point where I was like, I cannot go back to the corporate world.
Okay.
Absolutely cannot.
Right.
Like, look at how my entire life was sacrificed.
Because you've been there for some years.
Yeah, and everybody would expect, you know, if you dedicate 20 years to something, you're just going to continue on that trajectory.
Job security. What were you thinking, not wanting that?
Oh, yeah, and I had no idea. I mean, I was absolutely freaked out. I had a mortgage. I'm a single mother. No job.
Right.
So how in the world is any of this going to happen?
Right.
But I guess I just didn't get too hung up on that, even though I did have some freak out moments. But I started using Post-it notes and posting them all over my dining room of, well, what could I do? And I just, all these ideas, and then I saw the Post-its and I started grouped them into this category and grouped them in that category.
Right.
And what I kind of saw when I looked at my dining room walls was, I'd love to be in e-commerce. I'd love to be a merchant online. Okay. And the other thing was I would love to coach entrepreneurs because I have this 20 years of experience in the corporate world of creating brands, creating products, launching products.
For other people.
For corporations. Right. So that was my idea, and I had no understanding of how that would come about or how I would pay my mortgage.
Right. Yeah. Because you've been relying on this one income. All this time, and then here all this stuff starts to come, like you said, just crumbling, and you're just like, all right.
Right. That's right. So I had these ideas planted. But then a couple other events happened which were very traumatic to me, very personal traumatic events, and I just couldn't take anymore. I literally gave up on the desire to live.
Really?
I did.
Now looking at you, like so many women, we look at each other and we just know that they have it all together. It's like you're looking at the house, the cars, relationships, the perfect children and all of this, but inside there is something that's like, okay, it's not right.
Right. Yeah, I could not take this role that I was playing anymore of raising my children by myself for 10 years.
Okay.
Being a superhero on top of it.
Yeah.
And sacrificing all these areas of my life that I literally, I checked myself into the hospital because I just couldn't take it anymore.
Really?
And I just laid on that hospital bed for 3 days straight and did nothing other than lay there for 3 days.
Okay.
Didn't even pick up the TV remote or anything. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Okay. So it was just at that break, you had that breaking point.
I had a breaking point.
Do you think that a lot of us are walking around and just really need that? Like, we're so afraid of having that breaking moment, but we do so much if we try to avoid that. Because I remember having my breaking moment and I couldn't avoid it.
Yeah.
So how did did you just say that was it?
I just couldn't take it anymore.
Okay.
I literally, I was absolutely done. I was like, I've done this for 4 decades.
Yeah.
I can't take another 4 decades of this.
Right.
I really can't. Cannot do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have 2 beautiful children.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so at that point, it came down to I had a choice, and that was either to die or to live on purpose.
Not just to live, but live on purpose.
Live on purpose.
Which is a big difference.
On the outside, everything looked like a success,
Yeah.
but on the inside, it was a hell because I was unhappy, unfulfilled, unhealthy, and not living on purpose. Yeah.
So many of us walking around like that.
Right.
Because we have on this mask.
That's
we
right.
have to pretend for everyone,
Right.
especially as women.
That's right.
You know, because I don't want you to know that I'm going through this hell, and you know, and it's like I got it together. I can do this, and we put these pressures on ourselves. But we have that breaking point. So your Jenga tower,
it crumbled.
It crumbled.
Completely crumbled. And, you know, honestly, it took a couple of months for me to kind of come out of that and get back to functioning. So when I came home from the hospital, I came home to a house under construction. So,
okay.
I mean, and I had a dream. I had a dream during that time where all of the walls, I was in my house, and all of the walls of my house came down.
Really?
There were construction men tearing down all of the walls in my house. And so then I was standing on the foundation of my house and looking out, and I was like, okay, cool. There's no walls now. Now I can fly.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever felt like you were flying in a dream. So I tried to take off and fly, but there was a voice, and it said, no, you're not taking off, and you're not flying. You're going to go down.
Ooh.
And when I say that to me meant I was going to stay right where I am.
Okay.
And dig my foundation.
So instead of running away,
escaping,
because I'm guilty of that. I would run away from everything.
Right.
So with you had to stay.
Yes.
And rebuild
my foundation. Ooh. So take all those Jenga blocks.
Yeah.
And put my prayer life on the bottom. Put myself on the bottom.
Okay.
Self-care.
Okay.
Add in sleep.
Which we take for granted.
That's right. Time with friends.
Okay.
Time at church.
Okay.
So I've been rebuilding my foundation and staying exactly where I am while rebuilding my life.
How is that? How is the rebuild? Are you still rebuilding, or was it happened in 6 months, 7 months, or was there a time limit on it?
I guess I mean rebuilding my internal life, right? Rebuilding my internal life, and I sought help for that, and have some really great support for doing that, and that's important too.
It is, and I'm glad you said that, because many of us. We don't want to seek help.
Right.
Because we wear this cape. I'm not a mother, but just having the issues that I had as, just a woman, it's I can do it. I don't need any help. Until I had that breaking point and I had to say, I need help.
Right.
And was that easy for you to seek out help, or?
Well, I had no choice, right? Because I had come to that juncture in the road,
Right.
and I chose to live on purpose.
Yes, yes.
So in living on purpose, there's no other choice but to humble myself.
Yeah.
And to get that help,
Right.
and to help others.
Right. Because we also have to understand that God places people there to help us. He ordains people to help us.
Right.
And we don't look at it like that.
Right.
So how has the rebuilding been? How has it been? Is it easy, or was it just a breeze?
Well, it's a learning process.
Okay.
I've had to learn how to take care of myself again. And I feel like that's probably so prevalent for so many women these days, because it's not like motherhood was in the 1970s.
Yeah.
I mean, these days we have to be a mother, have a job, be successful, and look good doing it.
Right.
You know?
With every hair in place, and makeup included, yes.
Yeah. So, in trying to fill all those roles, I know for myself, and I think it's quite prevalent, is that we abandon ourselves, and in my case, and maybe in some others, abandon God, abandon friendships, abandon community, in order to keep it all together. And those are all fundamental aspects. So it's been a learning process for me to try to figure out how to fit that all in.
Right.
You know, I literally write down, I have a checklist. Did you this, and this, and this today, Elissa, to take care of yourself? Because I have to keep myself accountable. Because with all these roles, it's so hard to do that.
I was going to ask, like I was going through the self-care this year, learning to put myself. I thought it can be easy. I thought it was going to be easy for me.
Right.
And it's not.
It's not.
Especially when you're used to taking care of everyone else.
Right.
You know, I'm the oldest of my siblings, so I was always used to taking care of, making sure that everybody was okay. Even people at work, church, just all of my friends. But when it was time for me, I could not do it.
Right.
So you write down.
I write down, like, yes, did I take my supplements? You know, did I spend time with God? Did I get enough sleep? Just the basics. The basics.
Yeah.
I mean, those are just the basics.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get pulled off of that. But, so it's a learning process of a constant balancing jungle as a mother. And I've started a couple of businesses. So that's all balancing.
Good. So I want women to understand that it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
Like you said, it's a learning process. It's a process.
It's a learning process. And the other thing that I want to mention too, that is because it's not talked about so much, but I know it's one thing that does not discriminate, and that is trauma.
Yes. Yes.
That is trauma.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were some of those events, they felt very traumatic to me.
Yeah.
There were some other events that were traumatic to me. And it does have an effect on us. And that's some of the help that I have been seeking as well, is help from professionals who understand trauma. Because I knew I wanted to get out of that, the impact of that on my life. And I think that if more people were aware that maybe what they went through was traumatic, it did have an impact on the body and the brain.
Exactly.
It does impact how we now relate to the world. And really work on that we'd have healthier people walking around.
Especially in the Christian community, because we don't discuss that.
Right.
We always say, and we talk about it a lot, we always say, well, just pray and God will help.
Right.
And I remember saying, well, I'm praying and nothing is happening. I don't understand. But because I was refusing the help that God was placing in me, because again, I was taught you don't say anything, or you don't acknowledge it, that you pray and move forward. But I'm glad to hear you say that we have to we have to acknowledge trauma is real.
Trauma is real. And sometimes just having certain relationships can be traumatic over a long period of time. Like I said earlier, with the spiritual abuse that I experienced earlier in my life, that was traumatic, and that had an impact on me. So, that's the other thing that I wanted to mention is trauma doesn't discriminate.
It doesn't.
And it's something that I believe more people have than what we as a society tend to acknowledge.
Right,
Yeah.
right. What is your message that you want to leave with women who have it all together on the outside, but inside?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm learning that, and this might not be politically correct, but feminism sold us a lie, that we can have it all and we can do it all. I experienced that it's not the case. I did my best. I pulled out my super hero powers to do it for as long as I could. But what it really comes down to, in order to be a whole woman, is to keep your Jenga tower together. Keep your Jenga tower together.
Keep it together.
Sometimes that means not adding anything else on the top. Sometimes things just have to go, and we have to be okay with that.
Right. And sometimes we just have to say no.
Right.
We can't do it.
Right.
Wow. Elissa, amazing testimony, because again, like I told you before, when you shared that, I'm like, huh? It's like, wow, because we don't expect these things to happen, or we see it on TV, or we hear it from other people who know other people.
Right.
So amazing. Well, look into that camera and tell us how we can reach you and how we can connect to you.
Sure. So I have a website. It's ElissaBordner.com. That's ELISSABORDNER. And what I do is I now coach heart-driven entrepreneurs who would like to have an e-commerce business and scale it to support a lifestyle of freedom where we can work 2 hours a day or less.
Well, I'm super excited for you. I love that analogy of the Jenga tower and so forth, because I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, you know what? You're right. When you leave God out of things, the tower will crumble.
Right.
We can have it all, but without that faith, without that balance, that foundation, it means nothing.
Yeah.
It means nothing. Well, I thank you so much for being here. It was a blessing to me, and I know it's going to be a blessing to so many other women out here. And I'm very proud of you and happy to have you as a friend. So I thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Oh, you're so welcome. And as always, I want you to stay connected with me. All social media, Trinette L. Collier, and the website, IamTrinetteLCollier.com. And every day that you wait, just know that life is good. It's still good. Life is going to happen, but it's still good. And every day that you get up, make sure that you live, laugh, and love. All right? And until next time, we thank you. And again, Elissa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it was a pleasure. So until next time, talk to you later.